Good afternoon, coaches. My name is Kyle McElvany. I'm the offensive line coach and special teams coordinator at St. Mary Catholic Central down in Monroe, Michigan. We're a school of just over 400 kids or so in the Huron League. And today I'll be speaking with you about developing efficient special teams units for small high schools. Before I get into the meat of the presentation, I want to thank Coach Nick Bandstra. His YouTube channel is without a doubt one of the best free resources out there for high school coaches. There's hundreds of videos from I think all 50 states now, not to mention the small colleges, NIA Division 3, 2, 1 FCS, and your Division 1 Power 5 and Group 5 coaches. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's put together for coaches. And, he's never asked anyone for a dime. So it's really a good credit to him and what he's created. Also want to thank our head coach at St. Mary's, Adam Kiff, and our coaching staff and our administration for allowing me to do this and really allowing me over the past off season, especially to travel the country and speak on Power T football and special teams and program building. Without the game of football, I would never been able to see some of the places I've been. And it's really a blessing to be somewhere where you're valued, where you enjoy going to work every day. And despite the challenges we face in education and coaching, to really enjoy what you do. And ultimately, I want to thank you, the listener who's viewing this. You're taking time out of your day to watch this and get better. And so I thank you for watching this and taking the time out of your day to help your kids get better. So I'm going to do my best to give you your money's worth, or at least, give you as much quality information as I can for the time you're spending with us. So real quick, just some of the things we're going to cover today in our clinic. So real quick about me. I'm a 2005 graduate of St. Mary Catholic Central where I coach now. So SMCC is a special place to me. My sophomore year, we put in the Power T, and the school has never been the same since. We have always been a successful high school football program at SMCC. I believe we're entering our 76th or 77th year of existence as a program. But for me to come full circle after coaching in Ohio for 9 years and experiencing some success coaching at small high schools to big high schools, and then I was a head coach at Dundee High School from 2015 to 2019 in Michigan, where our staff turned around a program that was 0-9 with 4 head coaches in one season prior to us taking over to turning them around to 5-4, and then eventually, developing that winning attitude there. And unfortunately, things didn't work out for us towards the end of my tenure there. Administratively, between myself and the superintendent, we just didn't see eye to eye. And really, at that time, I was also already teaching, working at St. Mary Catholic Central, which I'll get into here in a second, but it was time to come home. And there's not many places I would have left being a head coach to become an assistant, but SMCC was certainly one of them. And at SMCC, I'm also the Director of Inclusion, which is a fancy title for saying Director of Special Education. We're the only Catholic high school in the state of Michigan that have a full special education program. We have students with autism, Down syndrome, cognitive impairments, and other learning challenges and disabilities. They get to attend a Catholic school just like any other student. And we have a really unique model for that. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I don't want to spend too much time on it in this presentation, but if you're interested in learning about it, please email me. and I will be happy to tell you about it. I'm also the director of our summer camps. So all of our sports summer camps I manage and promote, and also a football coach, obviously. So about at St. Mary Catholic Central, we're a private Catholic high school of 347 students located in Monroe, Michigan, which is just about dead middle halfway between Detroit, Michigan and Toledo, Ohio. We're Division 7, which in Michigan, that means Division 1 is the biggest, Division 8 is the smallest classification. So we're towards the smallest, the lower end. We're about 20 or so students away from being Division 6. We're a member of the Huron League. We play in a tough conference with Division 3, Division 4, Division 5 schools. Really good schools like Riverview, Milan, Airport, Grozeal, Jefferson, Flat Rock. And I know I'm forgetting some off the top of my head with no disrespect towards those programs, but especially Riverview and Milan are good football programs that are consistently in the playoffs and winners. We're historically a winning, successful program. We're number 17 overall in the state of Michigan, and we're sitting on 499 wins as a program. So we're excited about the 2022 season and getting that win number 500. And it's really a tribute to all those guys that have come before us and worked hard with their blood, sweat, and tears. All those Hall of Fame coaches that have come before us, like Joe Sanderson, Jack Jarmo, and I know I'm forgetting others, so I don't mean this with disrespect. But so many people have put in their heart and souls into this program to make it what it is today. So we're honored to be a part of it. We've won 2 state titles in the last 10 years, most recently in 2019. We carry between 25 and 35 kids on varsity and another 25 and 30 on JV. And I say that because having spoke around the country this past offseason, I spoke in Utah, California, Ohio, and Michigan. Our JVs play on Thursday nights. And in Michigan, we have what's called a 5th quarter rule. So any JV kid that can play on special teams only on Friday nights for varsity, or they can play up to 1 quarter of offense or defense. We really don't utilize that rule that much. We believe if a JV kid is good enough to play for us, then they should be with us full time. But I certainly see merit in that rule. Another thing about our school is we have more sports programs at our school than any other school of our size. In terms of enrollment, I mean, we have boys tennis, we have lacrosse, we have swimming, we have all those quirky non-revenue sports that a lot of schools have cut out. We have boys and girls soccer, which is huge at our school in terms of numbers. Over 3/4 of our student body plays a sport. So our kids stay really busy, and they're also challenged in the classroom. I'll tell you one thing about our school. We are not that stereotypical private school that has all these money and resources. We rent our stadium every week. Our practice field is a restored piece of land next to a beer factory. And we actually bus our kids, JV and varsity. Our bus driver makes 2 trips to our practice field, which is about 2.5 miles away from our school. Or they have to carpool if we don't have a bus available. So we face some challenges that are more like, and I don't want to say like a inner city school, but we have challenges to our logistics, just like some other public schools. Some of my influences, and I don't want to read through this verbatim, but I'll say first and foremost, one of my biggest influences was my high school head coach, Jack Jarmo, who's in the Michigan High School Hall of Fame. Besides my family, there is no one that's been more influential than Jack Jarmo in my life. So much that my son is actually named after him. I have 5-year-old Jackson. He held me accountable I got into coaching because of him, and a lot of my coaching principles and what I stand for and how I teach and coach comes from him. Some other influences, Mike Vickers, who was a very successful coach in the state of Ohio for over 30 years at multiple schools, as you see there. Gasper Jarmo, who was successful on both the east side and the west side of Michigan. May he rest in peace. I miss his conversations and advice. Tim Spees is another one. Very successful coach, especially in the state of Ohio for over 30 years. He won some state titles at Liberty Center as a defensive coordinator. And now he's at London High School, which is in the Columbus area of Ohio. So special teams influences. And I actually spoke to Coach Saturino this morning. He's the special teams coordinator at Army at West Point. I'm a big Army fan, and this guy, I mean, he is a ball of positive energy. His attitude is contagious, and I love talking football with him because even if you only learn a few things, X's and O's wise, his attitude, his positive outlook on life is really influential. And I can see why kids love playing for him and wanting to go to Army to play for him. Shane Graham, who's a former, he's a Virginia Tech Hokies legend, also played in the NFL for quite a long time, especially known for his time with the Cincinnati Bengals. And now he runs a consulting business. Sorry about that. A consulting business for specialists. He also contributed to a book that I think you need to check out. Jimmy Flynn, who was most recently at St. Xavier University in Illinois. Right now, he's taken a year off, but he's a veteran high school and college coach. Probably the best coach that should be at a big-time college or NFL. And I've put all their Twitter contact information there on the right. They're all very accessible guys that are willing to talk football with you. But these four guys have been a huge resource for me as I've gone down this path of being a special teams coordinator over the last 3 years. And then Wes Anderson, who's at New Palestine High School in Indiana. I mean, I don't even know how many state titles they've won, but he's very good at what he does. And he knows that the high school game's a little bit different from the college game. And he's been a big influence on me as far as being aggressive and believing in what you do, even if it's not what people see on Saturdays and Sundays. So I'm a part of a group with Randy Jackson, the author. He's a high school coach in Texas. He's an author of Culture Defeats Strategy, volumes 1 and 2. And his big thing was in this masterminds group, he had on a speaker named Dr. Gilbert, who said you have to find that one word that defines what you're believing this season. And for me, and it's always been this over the course of my career, not just one season, but it's selfless. I really believe that if we can find kids that are selfless or teach them how to be selfless, that we're going to be successful. Like you see here, I'm the director of special education, or it's called director of inclusion at SMCC. And I'm also a football coach. I also teach special education classes. That picture there on the bottom is one of our football players, who's also a basketball player. He actually asked if he could leave practice early to support one of his inclusion students that he mentors at her play for school. At SMCC, instead of having adult aides in the classroom, I personally train a group of 20 or so students to be peer mentors that serve in the role of adult aides that you'd see in a public school, and they receive high school credit for that role. And Patrick took such pride in being a peer mentor for Lauren here that he actually asked to leave basketball practice early so he could go show support to Lauren at her play. And that's why I have this picture in there. That's being an example of being selfless. It's not about me. It's about raising someone else up, picking up someone else in their day. And last thing before I start getting to special teams, I think as you get older as a coach, You got to develop a set of core values that never change. Obviously, yes, even if you're an assistant at another program, you support the head coach and you be a good soldier, but you can still have your set of values you believe in as a person, as a coach. And for me, it's always been this. I will always tell you the truth. I will always put the team first. I will always help you be the best you can be. And I will always be here for you long after your playing career is over. And no matter how long I keep doing this, whether I'm an assistant, a coordinator, a head coach, private or public school, small school, big school, rural, inner city, suburban, those pillars for me are never going to change. I think it's important as a coach that you develop those core set of values because it's going to help you develop your identity. All right, so our special forces call to arms. At SMCC, all of our special teams units are named after military terms. And I am not one of those coaches that will ever say that football is like war. I think that's insulting to, especially to our veterans, but I like using special team or military terms with our special teams more as a sign of respect to our military. And our call of arms is this, is we are always on the attack. Anytime we're forced to turn the ball back to the opposition, whether it be a kickoff or a punt, even then, our goal is to find a way to get the ball back. So, for example, 2 years ago, we were in I believe it was a first or second round playoff game, playing Grass Lake. And we were down at least two scores, I think. 2 scores, maybe 16 points even. And on a kickoff, the first guy to the ball secured the tackle. And this is after 9 or 10 weeks of drilling this, guys, and not seeing it. But finally, it sunk in. First guy to the ball secured the tackle. He had him wrapped up. The second guy punched the ball out. We recover that fumble. First offensive play, we score. Boom, momentum's back in our favor. Then eventually we get an onside kick. Recover, score. And then we get another onside kick and score with no time left to win the playoff game. And it's always cool to see your plans come to fruition, I guess. Number 2, we don't care about outside perceptions. We don't care what the University of Michigan's running on their punt return. We don't care about what formation Ohio State used on Saturday for kickoff. It ultimately comes down to us, the talent we have, and playing the statistics and percentages that we have scouted. That's what we care about. A lot of people complain because a lot of the times we don't put a guy back on punt return. But if the opposition's punter is very erratic or they fake a lot, why would we? We'll play defense and let our offense continue to eat clock. We run a power T offense that is predicated on running the clock. So that's why a part of why we do what we do. We believe that starters on offense or defense must be able to play at least 2 special teams units on every Friday night. So at our school, in a good year, we have 35 kids on varsity. We expect even our starting halfback, our starting fullback to play at least 2 special teams. For example, our starting fullback, Cole Jandro, he also starts on defense at corner. He'll be a 4-year varsity letter winner for us at the end of this upcoming season. He'll end up being a 3-year starter for us. He won the 100 meter. He was number 2 in the state in the 100 meter and 200 meter as a sophomore in Michigan. He is our starting long snapper. And we use him as our starting long snapper on punt because after he releases, we make sure he can get downfield, avoid blockers, guys that want to pin him down so we can force a fair catch. And we try to define roles for these guys. And while we're doing it, though, we have to be very conscientious of we want to be developing underclassmen to fill those roles for those starters as the season goes on. So by week 5, 6, 7, we have another guy in there. And we will leave no stone unturned in regards to preparation. So as a teacher, I know, okay, we got to find a way to teach them visually, auditorily, kinesthetically. We got to find different ways to reach them. So getting into our spring skills, we don't have spring football in the state of Michigan. We can work with up to so many kids in the gym. So that's what we do. And our head coach, Adam Kipp, does a great job keeping us on track with the rules and making sure we're within compliance. So in terms of spring skills, I think it's important first and foremost, before you even get into the workouts of the off season, to seek input from not only your staff, but your players. So this quote right here by Andrew Stanley: leaders who don't listen will eventually be surrounded by people that have nothing to say. So if you're a leader and you constantly ask for input, but don't care what they have to say, don't really implement any of it, well, eventually those people are gonna shut down and not have anything to say. So I think it's important to seek input of others. And you can ask your players what they think of things. They're the ones out there living it, playing it, blocking it, tackling for you on Friday night. So sometimes you can listen to what they say. And if you're coaching right, if you're preparing them the right way, they're probably picking up more than you know. So the first thing I do in the winter, in December, is I send out I send out the form in January, but I send out a Google form, and we're a one-to-one iPad school, so they can answer really quickly during school time, to discuss different questions regarding special teams. Why? A big thing for me is establishing relationships, and I think of this Google form as just one more way to establish a trust. I really do believe that relationships are built on a bridge made of trust and love. And if I ask our kids what they think, I ask them give their opinions on special teams, on various topics, and I am very specific with what I ask. I don't just say what would you change about kickoff? Does our kickoff team suck? No, I'm very specific with what I ask, so they have to be specific with what they answer. And we've had 90% return on our answers when I send this out. Also, I use this to identify any potential specialists we didn't know about, because sure enough, when I get the survey back, there's always one or two kids that say, oh, but coach, I can kick field goals, I can do kickoff, that I never knew, but they just so happen to decide to tell me now, a year later. I want to know how they feel about their coaching, and I'm not using this or giving them a open forum to rip a certain coach, but I want to know, are they receiving? Do they feel like they're being prepared enough to play on kickoff? Are they being coached well enough on leverage? Do they feel comfortable enough to field a ball on punt return or kick return? Also, I want to know, what do they feel we can get better at? What do they feel they can get better at? And I also do like to seek out the opinions of graduated players, because obviously they have nothing to lose now. They're going to be pretty honest with you, and they're probably going to be a little bit more upfront with you with their answers. So this is just an example of our spring skills checklist. These are some of the questions that are on the Google form that I talked about, such as, what is the best source of preparation for you? Is it our scouting report? Is it the huddle film playlist that I put together? Is it our Thursday morning meeting that we have? How do they think we can improve? How can I, as the special teams coordinator, help them be more successful? And on and on. There's, I think, a total of 6 or 7 questions on there. The other thing, post-workout drills. So after workouts in January, in our winter and spring, we abide by the MHSA 4-player rule, so I can never work with more than 4 players at a time. But for example, one day I'm going to take any kid that's a long snapper, and we're going to work long snaps for 10 to 20 minutes. And I think it's important as a coach too to develop as many long snappers as you can. When I was a head coach at Dundee High School, we actually lost the game that would have put us into the playoffs. We were forced to go for 2 because our starting long snapper got hurt, then our backup long snapper got hurt. So we were forced to go for a field goal. Go for a field goal instead of go for about I think it was 13, 14-yard field goal instead of going for the score to win. And unfortunately, we got stopped. We had to go for the score instead of trying to kick it for the easy field goal. So after that was my kind of lesson learned that, in pre-practice, when you have that group of linemen that say, I have nothing to do, and they want to sit around and BS and get water, that's when you can start developing more. And you'll find 1 or 2 diamonds in the rough out of that dozen or so that can't do it. One day of the week, we're going to have our kickers and punters. They're going to kick or punt into the batting cage nets. We have an auxiliary gym with a batting cage with the netting that drops from the ceiling with a remote. So we'll have them do that for about 10 minutes or so. And it's important, too, we do it after lifting because we want to make sure that they're stretched out. And we also put them on a stopwatch, too. We won't do this as much for the kickers and punters because obviously they're not taking a snap from somebody and getting it off. But we will stopwatch our snappers. And then we also want to work on, as we get longer into it, fielding snaps, high snaps, low snaps, ground ball snaps, kind of working like if you're a shortstop or a second baseman or something. So summer install. The first part of our summer install is this. In the state of Michigan, we get so many coaching days. So we call them OTAs, or organized team activities. So once a week, we have a helmets-only practice after lifting from 9 to 11:30. It's about 2.5 hours. 20 to 30 minutes of that is going to be special teams. For us, organization's key. As I'm planning, it's not so much like, okay, I got to spend X amount of minutes on this, but it's rep numbers. I'm going to get so many reps of this. I'm going to get so many rep numbers of that. And it's more so based on those base fundamentals of landmarks, your eyes, your footwork, and core skills, blocking, shedding blocks and avoiding tackling. And I might put on practice plan like 4 reps each for every kid, 5 reps each instead of exact times. Because I want to go quick with our time and be efficient and not just repping for the sake of a clock. Then we get into July. That's when things heat up for us a little bit. We have 7-on-7s. We have lifting 4 days a week. And we also have our champions camp right in the middle. Our champions camp outline is 2 hours and 15 minutes on the field with a 1-hour lunch break served by the parents. And they get a nice lunch every day. They get, some kind of protein sandwich, chips, fruit, vegetables, Gatorade, a little dessert, more than they even need. And then another 2 hours and 15 minutes on the field. So during that week, they're going to get 20 minutes of special teams per session. So 40 minutes a day on top of special teams pre-practice time. Now, I'll be honest. I tell them up front, in a team meeting, I will never beg guys to get extra work in. If guys want to play and they're serious about getting on the field on Friday nights, they're going to make the most of that time, because I'll make notes of the guys that are still sitting on the sideline during pre-practice. And that doesn't just go for special teams, because if they're choosing to take the easy way out on pre-practice for specials, then how can we trust them to play offense or defense? Especially when every game is a big game for us. We always have a target on our back. A little thing I picked up watching Ohio State practices under Urban Meyer and Tressel is to make sure your coaches, and this is nothing to do with special teams, but I guess I put this in there anyway, is to talk to them while they're in their stretch lines. I think as coaches, sometimes we get in a bad habit of, oh, well, they're stretching. This is our social hour time where we BS with each other. No, get out there and start talking to the kids. See where their minds are at. See if they're sore. See if they had a bad day last night. Try to figure out where they're at mentally. Like I said, our champions camp is 4 days from 3 to 8:30. It's at a neutral site. So we don't do this at our practice field, actually. We do this at a parish that has a youth football field on the back of their property. We don't stay overnight, but we like to go somewhere where we can get away from any distractions. It's out in the middle of the country. No one bothers us. The only noise we hear is roosters crowing, oddly enough. And I thought those only crowed in the mornings, but I guess they do at 5:30 at night too. But it's helmets and practice jerseys only. We start to extend those base fundamentals of special teams. We start to get into open field tackling drills. We utilize, the gator roll and rugby tackling. And we also try to implement some kind of an individual skills circuit. Towards the middle of Champions Camp, especially those last 2 days, I will install our special teams units. I'll install punt, kickoff, PAT block, punt return. It depends on how, honestly, it sounds kind of low budget, but it depends on how well our field is lined. If we have a fully lined field, I will get right into kickoff and punt. Otherwise, I'll do PAT block, punt return, and then punt. I believe you have to use a stopwatch and film as much of practice as you can. Luckily, our head coach has a drone with a video camera on it, and it's great for special teams. If you ever want to film special teams the right way and make sure you're in your proper lanes and spacing, get a drone, because there is no better view. It's better than any end zone camera you could ever buy. 2 days. So logistically, like I said, we bus our kids to practice. And in Michigan, we start, for us as a school, we only have one true week at 2 days, because the second week we're already in school. We start school really early, way before Memorial Day. I think we have 2 weeks in a school before Memorial Day. But for us, that means every minute's important. So from the minute they get off the bus, they're throwing their shoulder pads on, their helmets on, tying their cleats up, and they're rolling. Right into pre-practice. I mean, they get off the bus into pre-practice. We do have a true 2 days, so we have a true 2 practices with a 1 hour lunch, and we try to do 1 to 2 special teams per practice. By day 4 at 2 days, so during that first week, by the 4th day, so Thursday, we want to be reviewing all of those. During that second week, so by Monday, I want to have a solidified personnel, at least our starters on every unit. And then by the end of that second week, so we will scrimmage on a Thursday of that second week of 2 days while I'm scrimmaging with someone. So by Wednesday of that second week, I want to have a depth chart in place, at least a 1s and 2s. And then I want to be taking, maybe I'll have a list of 3 or 4 kids I want to take a look at in various spots. But it goes by a lot faster than it seems these days. Scouting reports. Like I said, we try to leave no stone unturned. So I will put together, as the special teams coordinator, I put together a weekly scouting report. And I will post it on Sunday morning after our coaches meeting. As coaches, we meet at 8 a.m. on Sundays. I try to have that special teams report done and posted as a PDF file to a private Google Classroom, because we're a one-to-one iPad school that utilizes Google modules for everything. Posted to our private Google Classroom no later than 11:30. Also, by late Friday night, I have a hard time sleeping after games. So this is usually when I put together the playlist, but late Friday night, early Saturday morning, I'll take 10 plays from our previous game, make a playlist, and add coaching points and notes to it. So they'll get that. The last thing we do to prepare, because remember, I'm trying to hit every function of learning, whether it be auditory, whether they have to learn by doing, kinesthetically, by visually. Thursday morning, we have a special forces meeting where we watch 15 clips and a coaching point. They have to bring their notebook every time. And I make it very interactive. I want to make it engaging like a class where I'm asking them questions. I'll say, hey, when there's 6x4 kickoff from the right hash, what does this mean? I want them to tell me things as well and see how much they read, how much they studied up. I partner with local businesses because I want to get them fed every week. So if we're, school, the first bell rings at 7:55 in our school, we meet at 7:15. So I want to make sure that they get some kind of food and drink in their bellies. So Tim Hortons has always been a popular partner with us. So usually they'll get some kind of donut or breakfast sandwich. They'll get hot chocolate. They'll get a bottle of water or Gatorade. And they always make sure to give us extras, which is nice because then I'll have a couple kids go around the school and deliver a donut to every teacher before they start their day. And it's just kind of a little act of goodwill, building rapport kind of deal. So scouting reports. So now I'm going to take you through an example of one of our scouting reports from the 2021 season. So yeah, this past year. So this is against Flat Rock, who's one of our league opponents. Again, selfless. We're always about being selfless, especially in special teams. I have always put the hourglass on our special teams reports. And before, when I was a head coach at Dundee, I always put the hourglass in the bottom right corner of our scouting reports because I want them to understand the only way you can add more sand to your team's hourglass is by winning. I always try to include a season preview from one of the local newspapers if I can. I'll include a roster in there. And I start getting into these templates I've made. I make them on Google slideshow. I'm sure you can make them on PowerPoint or Google Docs as well. Or there's other templates out there I've utilized in the past, but Google slideshow is what I feel most comfortable with, and it's the easiest transferable one. So I'll draw up their block against our punt. I'll draw up their return. And then if they run any fakes, I usually take the last 3 years worth of fakes and I'll draw them up. For this team, especially, their head coach loved using fake punts, usually like one a week or one every other week. So I went back and I took every fake this head coach has run since he took over that program. With us being one of the better programs, wins and losses wise, just historically in the Huron League, I realize that we have a target on our back and people will pull out all the stops for us. So for these guys, I made sure to include every fake punt they've ever run since this head coach took over. And if we have it on Huddle, if we have the clip on Huddle, I'll make sure to include that in the report as well. Like clip number 51. This was from their own 32-yard line when they ran this. So this guy's fearless. He'll call fake punts anywhere. And Flat Rock, head coach Buck Ream, he does a really nice job with them and running fake punts. He's aggressive and he can give a team a lot to prepare for. If they run some gimmick 2-point plays or some stuff that's really unorthodox that we haven't seen in a while, even though it's not unorthodox to us as coaches because we watch film, but it's unusual to kids because they don't watch as much film and watch as much football on TV as kids used to, I think. We include that on there as well. I include their kickoff coverage. So when I number it, I'll number it 1 through 10. left to right, like you're reading a book, and then kicker, and then their jersey numbers up top. Also, I don't have this on here. I wish I did, but I include what's called a hit chart. So I will include on this, and it's a document where they'll take from the 50-yard line down to the goal line in increments of 5, and then the hash marks on there as well. And I'll put a little X on where every one of their kickoffs landed. And then say, for example, they line up in a bunch kickoff formation from the right hash. I might do that in a different color pen. Say they squib kick it half of the time. Well, then in another color pen, I might put X's for the squib kicks. And that's how you develop. And that's probably one of the best tools I've learned. It's very elementary and sounds simple, but it helps our kids understand their tendencies and who most likely is going to be fielding some returns this week. And we've also tweaked our kickoff returns based on that. Maybe I shouldn't include that last point, but I don't know, maybe no one from the Huron League will watch this. But also obviously include their kickoff return blocking scheme based on as best as we can see anyway from the film, and then some motivational piece. Other things I've included in the past is a weather forecast. And some of these ideas I've gotten from looking at college special team scouting reports. If it's a non-league opponent and we've never been to that stadium before, I'll include a Google Earth shot of the stadium and then look up wind patterns just so we can see, like, hey, if we're expecting 19, 20 mile an hour winds on Friday night, what to expect. If we have film of their onside kicker hands team, I'll include that as well. Any fake punts or field goals, a film breakdown checklist. So as they're watching film, I'll give them 7 or 8 questions to fill out. It's just something really tough. Even though they know what to expect and know what to look for, I think it never hurts to write things down because it crystallizes their thinking. Then obviously motivational pages such as old newspaper articles, quotes, the old bulletin board material stuff that we all grew up with. The quality control reports. Just like offense and defense, I think you have to put together some kind of quality control reports. I think you have to be very specific with what you're really looking for, because otherwise you can find data upon data upon data and really go down rabbit holes where you're overthinking yourself. And I think it's important too, when you're putting together these quality control reports, you have to make sure it's clear with the other members of your coaching staff that you're not doing this to point out some kind of fault with the offense or the defense. Like, well, we have an average of a 33-yard return. Why aren't we scoring? Or, we're pinning them inside. The average opponent starting position is the 28-yard line. Why are they still scoring? No, this is more so to find out what specifically attached to special teams, what you're finding out and what you can do better because of it. So, for example, this is a quality control report based on our kickoff scheme. I'm putting down how far the ball went, the opponent's starting position, negative meaning their side of the field, the net return from wherever they caught it to wherever they were taken down. Did that opponent score on that drive? What was the drive result? Did they only go 4 and out? Did they drive it for, 11 plays, 9 plays? Did they fumble? The type of kick. So I treat kickoff kind of like an offensive play, guys. I try to have multiple formations. I try to go from different hash marks, and I try to have 4 or 5 different kicks. That changes obviously year to year depending on the kicker I have, but based on the kicker I had and the one I'll have for the next 3 years, that multiple formation style kickoff is going to continue. And I really want to get more creative with it as far as having motions and shifts and all that, and obviously different kind of kicks. But this is just one example of a quality control report and some of the different data you can find. I think you can do this for punt. I think you can do this for kickoff return. I think you can do this for any unit, really. It's just a matter of what kind of data are you looking for? You have to determine. And then, what's the outcome? What are you trying? What's that hypothesis you're trying to prove? What are you trying to find out with all this data? Just some random thoughts before I wrap this up. Just remember, you can never have too many long snappers, holders, punters, and kickers. So during that 15-minute pre-practice you have for special teams, every kid should be doing something. Even if you have a kid is not going to be a long snapper, that lineman that's never going to be a long snapper because of his body size, okay, then get down there and field onside kicks, get down there and field extra point attempts. Do something, though. Everybody should be working. Make sure you know those obscure rules of the kicking game. On the NFHS, they will physically publish their rules book every other year, and then they publish it online every year. And I believe you can order up to 2 free copies of the rule book. Maybe that's changed since I was a head coach, but I would order it every year. There's a coach in Flat Rock. He's since passed away. But he's very close with a friend of mine. His name is McElvany. And he believed that you should be, before the season started, if you're a head coach or a coordinator, you should memorize the rule book. Because as we all know, there's an official shortage these days, which means not all the officials know every rule inside out. So it's really important that we know the rules just as good or better than the officials. Another great resource out there is Chris Four. You can find him on Twitter, and he also has a website. If you Google like Chris Four Special Teams Materials, he has a lot of great resources out there, including a presentation on some odd special teams kicking game rules. As a special teams coordinator, even though I was the guy that ran every unit, I think it's important that you assign coaches to help you with every unit. And for me, I assign at least 2 coaches to help me with every unit. And depending on the unit, like kickoff or punt, that include leverage, and where it's very important to maintain proper leverage to be successful, I actually assign 2 coaches just to coach leverage. And they're usually our defensive coordinator and our defensive line coach. The other thing is make sure you put your punters and your kickers on a pitch. I call it a pitch count, but a kick count, okay? So if you have a kid he's your guy that does kickoffs, he should not be doing kickoffs every single day. You got to put him on a certain count so he's not straining his body. Kickoff is one of the most violent motions you can put on your body. Whether you're on the team, whether you're on the unit and pursuing downfield and shedding blocks and making a tackle, or you're the guy actually just kicking the ball, it's still a violent motion on your body. The other thing is you have to stress your punters and kickers to stretch before and after practice. Stress to them the importance of using a cold tub or even a foam roller, because their longevity, it's a long season. If you play in Ohio, it's a 10-game regular season, 3 scrimmages plus 5 to 6 rounds in the playoffs. In Michigan, 9-game regular season, 1 scrimmage plus another 4 games in the playoffs. That's a lot of weeks, a lot of wear and tear on your body. So you have to make sure you're doing everything you can to take care of it. I always put this in all my presentations, regardless of topic. I believe it's important to have, and it's something just to remind yourself of. I won't read this verbatim, but it's called the Unwritten Rules of the Profession. And the older I get, I'm 35 now. I have a wife and kid. I have a 5-year-old son named Jackson. I have another one on the way. I think it's important to remind myself of these. The first 7 were written by Duke's former defensive coordinator named Ben Albert. But I think it's most important that you, as much as you want to take care of others' kids, and don't get me wrong, fellas, that's what we do. If you're a teacher and a football coach in a building, Think about it. You probably spend more waking hours with someone else's child than your own, setting them up for success, teaching them how to do things right in life. So make sure you take care of your family as well. Number 4 is big for me as well, is help someone else climb the ladder. I just had one of my former players from Anthony Wayne High School become a head football coach just yesterday, actually. And that makes my day when that kind of stuff happens. I want to see the guys that I've helped along the way climb the ladder and become successful, because that's leaving the ultimate legacy when former players of yours go on to coach and do great things. When your own kids go on to do good things in life, that's really leaving the ultimate legacy. And I think, it's also important to give back to the profession. That's why if Coach Bandstra asks me, I will always do these kind of online clinics, or speak at a clinic or whatever if I'm available. I would not be in the position I am today. I wouldn't be fortunate to have had the success I've had, or go and see the places I have today without football. And I wouldn't have had those opportunities if it wasn't for those few people that saw something in me and gave me an opportunity, and took the time away from their own families to help me be a better coach. And lastly, number 9, I think is most important, is to leave your ego at home. There's nothing more that'll kill a program than an ego. Fellas, that's all I got. This is my contact information. My email address is kmclvaney@smccmonroe.com. On Twitter at Coach McElvany, MCELV as in Van, ANY. And my cell phone's on there as well. Best way to get a hold of me is email or Twitter, or send me a text message. If there's anything I can do, and I appreciate Coach Bandstra giving me the opportunity to do this. So take care and God bless.